Good evening. It's an honor to welcome you to the celebration of Precision HR at 5. My name is Joseph Ajao. I'm excited to be seated in great company. On my immediate left is a dear sister, a friend, a professional colleague in the human resources business, Rachel Dumba, one of the best in the industry, if not the standard. I'm also excited to be flanked on my right by Leona Buhenzire, a clinical psychologist. I'll give a more detailed introduction of each of my panelists when it's time for them to speak. But on your screen is, in fact, Leona's profile. So I'll come to that in a bit. But on my far right is another dear brother and friend, Andrew Chamagero. This is not NTV. You're not about to read the news.
No, but I'm excited to be here with you again.
Exactly. I'm excited to be with you as well.
Yeah.
So allow me to speak into who these esteemed panelists are. We'll have one more panelist joining us shortly. But you know the weather in Kampala tonight, it's been raining heavily for the last almost 4 hours, going on 5. There's a big power outage in parts of the city. So understandably, we might not have him here with us now. But we'll get started with my panelists. And I'll start off with none other than Rachel. Rachel Dumba is a consultant in human resources. And she's currently the CEO and partner in charge of strategy and human capital management at Stedman Global. Stedman is a management and development consulting firm that she co-founded, and it has operations in at least 10 African countries. Rachel is a strongly networked and business and results-driven personality with a very good appreciation and understanding of the business environment within several sectors in the private, non-governmental organizations, and public sectors in a number of countries, having been employed at senior management level by Kenol Kobil, DFC Bank, and her last corporate full-time job was with Citibank, where she was head of HR, spanning over 22 years. I'm honored to introduce Rachel, who currently directly employs more than 200 staff on a full-time basis in various development interests, and is very passionate about social impact and improving livelihoods. Allow me to go off the cuff a little bit when I talk about Rachel. Rachel and I are both alumni of the University of Manchester. We call ourselves Mancunians. So anybody who went to the University of Manchester, Manchester City, University of Manchester, so that's what we call ourselves in Uganda, Mancunians. I'm honored to welcome you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us at the celebration of Precision HR at 5.
Thank you very much, Joseph. I cancelled everything to be here. That means, thank you very much, Joseph. I cancelled everything to be here because Precision HR is family. I look forward to an exciting evening with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel. I keep telling people who know us and who know me that Rachel and another friend, Christine Kasule Mulimba, are the two sisters I never had biologically older than me. I have 2 younger sisters, but I never had an older sister. So I always refer to Rachel as my older sister and Christine Mulimba, with whom I worked at NSSF. That's Rachel. Allow me to introduce my next panelist. I'll go to the far right. Andrew, man in red. Is it Valentine's?
I intentionally decided to disrupt the colors.
I can see that.
Because I wear so much of corporate colors, navy blue and the blacks and all. Once in a while, you need to disrupt. I love disruptions.
But blue is our corporate color, so...
See, that's what I'm saying. It's better I just come off in red. It's actually good.
All right.
Yes.
Andrew Chamagero is a media professional. He's, in fact, somebody who has spent a long time, 17 years to be precise, in the media industry. He has a deep commitment to engaging men and boys in initiatives that have a positive impact on health and socioeconomic outcomes. Andrew Chamagero has been appointed as the National Family Planning and Male Involvement Champion by the Ministry of Health in Uganda. He is the founder and team leader of Omuntu Awansi organization.
Yeah.
And Omuntu Awansi initiative. He also hosts an Omuntu Awansi show every morning on radio.
Yes.
I don't know how you do it, being on radio at 5 in the morning.
I agree with my wife.
And Andrew Chamagero co-hosts Man Cave UG, the biggest Twitter following every Saturday morning followed by men, not just in Uganda. But the last I checked, we had over 50 countries.
Correct.
Men from 50 countries, and women too, logging in every Saturday morning from 7 a.m. in Uganda to maybe 10, sometimes 12.
Correct.
Sometimes the conversation goes on for 5 hours. Man Cave UG, providing a safe space for men to discuss important issues, especially issues of parenting, relationships, mental health, financial wellness, everything to do with a holistic well-being. Andrew is an accomplished news anchor on NTV Uganda, having worked on various esteemed media platforms. He's a trained journalist and a philosopher from South Africa.
Correct.
Very welcome, my brother and friend Andrew Chamagero.
It's an honor to be here. I can't wait to pick the ideas from great brains next to me.
Excellent. My next panelist is Leona Buhenzire. Now, for those of you who are looking for Leona Buhenzire on Twitter, you might find her, but you might also find somebody by the name of Tura. So some of you know her as Tura, clinical psychologist Tura. Others know you as Leona. She's a trained clinical psychologist with hands-on experience in diagnosis, evaluation, and treatment of emotional and behavioral issues amongst children and adults. A professional individual therapist who also develops mental health awareness strategies in workplaces to improve upon the well-being and performance of employees. Leona's areas of expertise include cognitive and perpetual psychology, substance abuse, group therapy, depression, and neuropsychology of workspaces. So when we talk about safe workspaces, look no further than people of Leona's kind, clinical psychologists and counselors and therapists. Leona is currently a clinical psychologist with Quick Care Wellness Center in Bugolobi, as well as the National Mental Health Referral Hospital, Butabika. Leona Buhenzire, welcome to the panel.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm
it's
excited.
Such an honor to celebrate your 5 years with you, actually.
I'm excited. I'll introduce Kawesa when he joins us. But for now, let's start with you, Rachel.
Sure.
So, gone are the days when people thought HR just hired and fired. Today, we're talking about safe spaces. In fact, our celebration is about creating and enabling safe workspaces. This 5th anniversary of Precision HR. Tell us, as a senior HR leader with 22 years experience in the field and all the travel in the world, 10 African countries and the rest of the world, what does it mean to you, Rachel, to create a safe space psychologically for workers, for employees, based on the HR standards?
Yes. Thank you very much, Joseph, and it's a pleasure and honor being here this evening. Safe spaces in HR. Let me just take you briefly through the HR journey, Joseph. You remember we started off with personnel, admin, then personnel, then got into HR, a bit of HR, then got into human capital management. Now we're talking people, culture.
Exactly.
And humans are no longer resources, because we keep asking, where are we on the balance sheet if we're resources? You have your furniture, you have your finances, are the humans on the balance sheet? So, and it's exciting because many CEOs now realize that HR is the most important resource that you have within your organization. So why is it critical for us, for employers, to create the perfect and safe workplaces? And it's exciting to see that we have a clinical psychologist here because of the high cases of mental health, depression that we're now seeing in the workplaces. And if you look at the number of hours you spend at work, you literally spend more than half your day at work. And that's why it's got to be conducive, it's got to be motivating, and it's a place where people want to come and feel they're with their family. They've left their little children at home, they've left their spouses in some cases, old, elderly parents, and so they want to come to a safe space. So why is it critical to me, having been in the profession for the last 22 years and still counting? Yeah. It's because when people are happy, they'll be productive. When people are excited and not worried about what their line manager is going to say to them, the tone of voice, the way you communicate. And we encourage line managers now, Joseph, to, first of all, open their doors. Gone are the days where you locked your door and had people make an appointment with your PA. Sit out on the shop floor with them. Buy snacks for them and eat with them. Get down to your employees' levels, and then they'll deliver the results that you're looking for. I don't know if that was my cue to stop talking. Thank you very much.
Maybe
I'll add
not.
to that after the two.
Maybe not.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel. So we're discussing revolutionizing HR for better work-life integration, not work-life balance. Look at the choice of words on the theme, Andrew. Yeah. Work-life integration. You're a big advocate for men's wellness. Not just everybody, but men. Every Saturday on Man Cave UG, I have been your panelist twice. I've also listened, yes, still counting. I've also listened to many other episodes when you go live on Twitter Spaces. Why should we move away from work-life balance to work-life integration, Andrew? What does that mean for you as a man who works in a very busy media house like NTV? You're always chasing deadlines and reading the news at 9.
KPIs.
Exactly.
For starters, I think we need to first understand the dynamics and the shift that came with COVID-19. That today we have different layers. So I'll give an example. At NMG, you're either hired as a journalist or as a talent. So the human resource needs to know, am I hiring a talent here? Am I hiring a professional person? Now, talents have a challenge with management of time because they're talents. They wake up one day and they just want to work in overdrive, and they can be at office up to 3 in the morning, and the following 4 days you won't see them. So how you manage them is totally different from how you manage a journalist. How best I actually share these nuggets with the men, it's about being a data-driven person or character. The world where we are today, if you're not in position to aggregate your productivity given the hours you have, you're actually missing out. So the position is traffic jam where I stay in Chiwatule is paramount between 7 and 9. So am I going to reach office at 10 p.m., rather 10 a.m.? Or am I going to take my tasks from my bosses and I do them from home? So while I'm at home, it is between 7 and 9, much as I'm home, I'm in office mode. So I've integrated my staying home, but I'm in office. So my wife won't tell me that Kari Zeza for now. No, she knows that I am at home because the traffic jam won't allow me to actually be in office in time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay home, but my space is respected. Boundaries. Can we be in position to respect boundaries? At times when my wife is equally working at home and she says, I'm going for a meeting for the next 30 minutes. She's at home, but I know that she's not at home. She's actually working, but we integrate it. So creating a safe space for one partners. At times our wives fail to balance the space for men. We know we'll have our wives to be with us, but we want you around us, but I mean, just give us the space, Don't come so much. I mean, as long as I have my cup of coffee here and I've queued into this meeting, that door needs to be closed. So if I'm in office, no one should knock on that door. And if anyone is going to knock on that door, before you knock, slide the paper under that, so that I see there is a yellow card coming through. I'm like, something is urgent, but it's not burning, so it can wait. So creating structures and boundaries in our spaces. Then secondly, making sure that we don't become superheroes. Cultures made the men that every time you call them, they're going to run here and there. I've shared with the men in my spaces, especially on Twitter and beyond. Even in Rwanda, I told the men, no one should call you past 9 p.m. You can't do nothing. If they have arrested you, I'm not the IGP. I can't save you. If you've gotten an accident, I'm not a doctor. I'm a journalist. Right. If someone is sick, I am not a doctor. Still, I'm not going to save the day. So it's just a matter of respecting your family, your wife and children. Put the phone in flight mode. So between 9 p.m. up to 8 a.m., you won't get me. I safeguard my space as a man. My mental sanity is crucial, but I'm in seeing that the people at home actually want to get a part of me.
Right.
So the work at NTV and across the world, they can die. I will deal with it tomorrow.
Okay.
So spaces and boundaries and having a structure on how to deal with productivity levels, it's very crucial to the men.
Wow. That's a powerful submission, Andrew. Really powerful. I tell my staff, my colleagues, a story. One time I was out with my sons. I have 3 boys, so I was out with them at the Wildlife Education Center in Entebbe. And we had friends over, my in-laws. My brother is married to, his wife comes from Germany, so the parents of the girl were here. So they came home. They came to visit us at home, and we had lunch at my house, went out with them to the mall in Entebbe, and then ultimately we ended up at the Wildlife Educational Center. Now, a call came through from one of the top-tier organizations in Uganda, big multinational corporation, and the money was really juicy. It was Sunday, 3 p.m. I'm with my family for recreation. I said to the head of HR, "Thank you for your call, but I'll attend to you tomorrow morning." She was shocked. She called back 10 minutes later. "Joseph, did you just hang up on me?" I said, "No, I didn't just hang up on you, because that might have sounded rude. But unfortunately, I'm with family right now. I'm with my sons and my in-laws. I can't really see you now. I can't speak to you. Even if you want something from me, I am not with my laptop. My phone is just for emergencies now. It's family time." And so the question is, did she die?
She did.
She did not die. But the very next day, I attended to it, and it was the biggest deal we got last year.
Well done.
So learning to separate work and personal time, but also learning to integrate. In the past, we did work-life balance before the lockdown. So we stopped work at 5, drove through 2 hours of traffic, and went home. Now, with the lockdown, your home, your bedroom was where you slept, where you worked, where you ate, where you did everything. So it became integrated. It was no longer balancing. There was no way to balance. So Leona, as a clinical psychologist,
Yes.
talk to us about, we're talking about revolutionizing HR for a better work-life integration. Talk to us about the concept of stress management and burnout and what impact that has on workers today.
Stress management and burnout. Wow, that's very wide and general. I think in the face of work and life integration, as you put it, yeah, the way that I look at it right now is, what option do you have but to integrate your work and your life, right? So before this, I was just speaking to you about the statistics I was computing for, let's say, for example, an average lifespan of 70 years, right? Let's assume that you start working after university, so age 22, right? So if you do that math and divide, you'll find that you're spending 68.6% of your life at work.
Wow.
Almost 70% of your life is going to be spent at work. So do you really have an option? Or to actually, you need to learn to integrate. You can't just say, these things are for work, after work, end of the story, done, out, I'm gone. You have to learn to self-regulate. You have to learn how to relate with your colleagues in a healthy, positive way, because you're spending 70% of your life with these people.
That's right.
That manifests onto the rest of your, in fact, it predominantly affects the rest of your life.
Yes.
You cannot be toxic and dissociated, disconnected at work, but completely integrated at home.
Yes.
Right? You have to learn how to manage relationships at work, and that will definitely impact how you manage relationships at home and in all the other places.
Wow.
So things like stress management, which sounds very cliche, and like in our African, I'm so glad to sit with you here, and I'm so glad that you have a safe space for men, because men are nurtured to be macho and beast mode 24/7, and even women who are known to be power women, it's the more masculine you seem,
Yes.
right? Which means you're also in beast mode. You know, you're not very domesticated. You're at work most of the time, and it's the way you speak and the way you walk and the way you're like a man.
Yes.
Right? That's what's seen as a power woman or a strong woman,
Yes.
which is really unfortunate, right? So things like stress management, which are especially in our African concept, frowned upon, are things that you have to. It's not an option. You need to learn to self-regulate, because at a certain point you're going to be angry, you're going to be happy, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to be rejected, you're going to feel less than. Do you know how to regulate those emotions, or are they running your life?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. What a powerful submission, Leona. And friends, I want to actually just give thanks to Leona. Until April 2022, I'm a man. And obviously, yeah, I'm a man, no doubt. Born a man, still a man, intending to stay a man until, so yeah, that's me. But I identify as a man, as a masculine male man. So, Leona, until April last year, I had never been to therapy. True story. Never been to counseling. But I'm a coach. I'm a certified professional coach. For the last 5 years, I've been coaching hundreds of people. I have over 700 hours of coaching under my belt professionally. And I'm an associate certified coach. I'm credentialed. I am the immediate past president of ICF Uganda, chapter. So you would think I understand enough about psychological safe spaces and about mental health and about positive psychology and how to deal with a whole realistic balancing of everything in your life. But I went through a personal crisis, which everybody around here knows, obviously, that forced me for the first time in 41 years of my life to go and seek therapy. And a friend of mine gifted my family a counselor who came home every Saturday for months. And subsequently, I then met Leona Buhenzire, and she's been my therapist. Leona has been my therapist. And no wonder I was very honored when she accepted my invitation to sit on this panel to discuss revolutionizing HR for a better work-life integration. And I am very serious about this. I am a much better person now than I was last year when the tragedy happened. I'm a much better father. I'm a much more productive person. I've bounced back fully to being productive and working thanks to therapy.
A clap for that.
Thanks to therapy. Thanks to counseling. Because in counseling, you're allowed to be vulnerable. Forget about being a man. I've told you I'm a man. And it's obvious. But I had to be vulnerable with my therapist. I had to talk about my deepest, most painful, hurtful moments. The times when I would cry myself to sleep at night, when nobody else knew I was crying. But with the therapist in that counseling room, I'm allowed to cry. Do men cry? Oh yes, men cry. You're allowed to be vulnerable in the safe space of a professional counselor, because they're not going to repeat this on social media. They're not going to gossip about you and talk about how weak you are. No, you're not weak. In fact, it's a sign of strength. So let's move, Rachel, to you. You've supported lots of organizations at the top tier level. As a head of human resources. You've been at the C-suite. You're now a CEO. You've done so many amazing things. How do you help CEOs like yourself to come clean about the fact that they too, especially men, the men CEOs, come clean about the fact that they also are struggling and they need to create a safe space for themselves to go and detox and to decompress?
Thank you very much, Joseph. Very interesting discussion. And Andrew, I must join them. Is it Man Cave UG? Man Cave UG.
Man Cave UG. I'll drop your link on Saturday.
Please, because I really need to take part in the conversations.
I will.
And Andrew, just surprisingly, allow me to go back to Andrew for a second.
Yes,
because many of the women struggle with Zoom calls at home and Teams, saying that their husbands literally stand behind the chairs, telling them, I've seen the same person calling you 3 times a week. And the person's trying to explain that that's my line manager, that's my boss. And she says, but why is the call between 8 and 9? And so, though Andrew is saying that women want to be with the men, we think it's the reverse. The men actually come and hoover over some women, and it's a challenge.
The issue is, I strongly believe in the male gender being extremely vulnerable financially as an insecurity, sexually as an insecurity, bodily wise as an insecurity, that if my wife looks at Joseph as an unappealing man, she can tell me Joseph looks good. And I'm not taking offense in that. What does Joseph do? Because all vulnerabilities are workable. Joseph works out. Can I work out? babe, I'm on this. Let's do this.
Let's
and
do
you're going to
it.
be my support structure.
Interesting. I'll join the conversation.
Please.
And also, Andrew, you need to look at the gig economy,
Yeah.
where you have young people who sleep all day and work at midnight.
Correct.
Because they're serving the US, Australia. Then you have consultants such as I who are working across several countries. So where do you draw the line when it comes to cutting off at 9 p.m.? Because if I told one of my clients that I can't take their call at 11,
Yes.
yet they're based in a country that is just waking up at 11.
Yes.
I think let's have a conversation around how to integrate, and that's where the integration comes in.
Yes.
Integrating technology, integrating the world today, and integrating the young Gen X's and rather Gen Y's and Gen Z's who
Yes.
want to sleep the whole day and work at night.
That works well.
Yeah.
It works well when we have clarity of what we do.
Yes.
So for those who work with me in Uganda, they totally know that when it gets to this time. But at times when I'm working with people in Thailand,
Yes.
when it's 8 p.m. in Uganda, it's 2 p.m. in
Exactly.
Thailand.
Yes.
So if I know that there is this particular time that I'm attending to someone in Thailand or Australia, those people with weird kind of
Hours.
time zones, it's only fair that I share with my better half that there is this call I'm going to have.
Yes.
It's in a
yes.
different time zone.
Yes.
As and when it comes, can I be given access? Now, there we are going to disagree. She'll say, you don't do that from the bedroom. I want to sleep. And if
Yes.
you're going to do it from your office, please don't be loud enough
Okay.
that you don't encroach on other people's spaces.
Yes.
So,
and it's not every day.
and it's not
anyways.
every day.
Yes.
But there are those gigs that come that it's running for 2 quarters.
Yes.
And you're literally going to say, you know what, babe, we have a reconciling meeting every Friday.
Yes.
And it starts at 10 p.m.
Yes.
So this is what I'm going to do. Between 10 p.m.
Yes.
and midnight, I'm always going to take my calls around the workspace. I'll be at
Yes.
NTV in the
Yes.
boardroom taking, because these guys are loud and the exchanges are quite very tense.
Yes.
And she will actually understand that. But you see, there is clarity of what time
Yes.
and the task at hand.
Yes.
But again, I should equally give the same leeway
Correct.
as and when she has a gig.
Exactly.
That is in South Korea, and the call starts at 3 a.m.
True.
Am I going to allow her to be like, you know what, babe, you can have that call, but
Can I shortly interject
Please.
there, please?
And sorry for the diversion.
I'm so
Jose.
sorry.
No, it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah.
I love the conversation. Leona, carry on.
Between both men, and that this is well and good, the advice that you're giving, but guys, this is a third world country.
Correct.
It's well and good for you to not take that call from a big paying company on a Sunday. This company is dominated by startups.
Yes.
This country.
Most people, you're this country. You're in the cream of this country. You have the privilege to not pick up that call. Most people don't.
Exactly.
If I have my company, which most companies are struggling, and especially if I'm a man and I'm a provider, and you know the amount of pressure today, you know, the ladies have to go to Dubai and on a yacht. That's a story for another day.
Right?
But the amount of pressure on a man, and then you're telling me that they're going to get a call on a Sunday, and they're going to say, please observe boundaries.
Yes.
It's a Sunday. We'll get back to it tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well, I think
yes.
that comes to the magnitude of what is at stake. What is at stake here? Leona, we had a meeting with one of the would-be funders of our next project, and we've been running and chasing this project for the last 10 months. And this funder says, I have a window on Sunday between 2 p.m. Ugandan time and 4 p.m. This is a lifetime-changing opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Am I going to let it pass away?
I wouldn't.
I am going to grab it, but while I'm grabbing it, I'm going to make sure that there is clarity with my support structure.
Yes.
That, babe, please understand, I just need 2 hours, and I'm going to make good of these 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because that's how she actually does for me.
Yeah.
Every hour I take from them, they say you're going to make good.
Yes.
Okay.
So that means, yes,
Yes.
if I've taken 2 hours today, If they pile up the next thing, they say, Andrew, we want you for 27 hours
Okay,
more.
that's
So it keeps on going, and how it goes, they'll take me in places I don't feel happy to be,
yes.
but I'll be there because I'm paying a debt.
Yes.
But for me, the thing is sharing and offering clarity. It's far different from someone just saying, I'm doing work. You want to be on a yacht in Dubai. Does it come by, is it falling from heaven? This is what brings it. Now, that is the macho feel, the masculine that is going to pop out. That I'm in charge. I'm entitled to this space. You're my wife. I don't believe in that.
Okay.
Babe,
And-
I have these 2 hours.
Yes.
Let me just, I'll pay
I'll
for
come
these 2
back.
hours, but I need this still.
Okay.
And I know I have a question to answer, so
Yes.
let me just go to the CEO
Please.
question
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's an interesting one. And Joseph, one of the things I keep reminding CEOs is that unless you're employed, self-employed like yourself and I, Joseph,
Yes.
and Andrew and Leona, it's different. But if you're employed by somebody, remember that you could be replaced easily. And unfortunately, the higher you go, the quicker you're chased out in different ways where your key is changed, guards escort you out, you're fired on Twitter, in public sector, and other areas. So I keep reminding CEOs that whenever you go in, assume it's your last day in office. Number one, be humble. Greet people. There are CEOs who walk in with one bodyguard carrying a laptop, another carrying the iPad, another the bottle of water. Exactly. Then they have a different entrance. Nobody uses their
Different
lifts.
lift.
And I tell them, why has this gotten into your head? So you keep, one of the things I do with my clients is bringing them down to reality, reminding them that they're only there temporarily, and giving examples of people who've been pushed out and are struggling and saying, my phone doesn't ring, I'm not invited to cocktails anymore, I do not know what's happened to my social setting. So remember your friends at work, the people that call you to all these C-suite events are not necessarily your friends.
Right.
So keep your village. Who is in your core village?
Wow, I love
the little boy village that you have. The guys Andrew goes with on Saturday in their shorts, and they jump into one double cab in one cab, a van, and buy drinks in the car and buy snacks and just drive down Ginger Road. And that is your crew, even though they're CEOs. Who is in that village of yours? So remain humble, keep that village, and don't remind people that you're a CEO. You know people who tell you, do you know who I am? Do you know who I can connect you to? Do you know me? That is totally unnecessary. And like Leona has said, self-regulate.
Yes.
So cut off. I am a workaholic, you know that.
Yes.
And I mean, at 3 a.m. the
Me
other
too.
day, he was chatting with me and saying, Rachel, this report. And I said, listen, I'm in Nairobi, I'm working. He says, I'm also up.
Yeah.
But I slept the following day. So
Yeah.
we have the option to work till 3 and sleep the following day.
Exactly.
Don't try to be Jesus. Don't try to push yourself and don't boil the ocean, for lack of a better word.
Oh, wow.
Just start with one thing at a time.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you.
Rachel, I hope this is being recorded. And for those of you who are watching us from other parts of the world and other parts of the country, just follow us on YouTube. We are streaming live on YouTube. Our YouTube page is Precision HR Proprietary Limited. If you're out there, follow us on YouTube. You could also follow us on Facebook Live. We're streaming live on Facebook. And our page is Precision HR Proprietary Limited. We're also streaming live on LinkedIn. And our page is Precision HR Proprietary Limited on LinkedIn. And lastly, those of you who are able to register using the earlier links that we sent, hopefully you're watching us on Zoom. So whether you're in the car, on your phone, on your tablet, laptop, home, wherever, you can watch us also. We're coming to you on Zoom. And I know we have so many friends joining us from different parts of the world, Africa, Asia, Europe, and America, where we have connections and associates and friends and family as well. So feel free to join us on our social media platforms. We are also on Instagram at PrecisionHR on Instagram. Now on Twitter, we are using the hashtag. Brighton, what's the hashtag we're using? Yeah, the hashtag is PrecisionHrAt5. So if you're on Twitter, follow our hashtag PrecisionHrAt5 and follow our page. It's at PrecisionHrUG. At PrecisionHrUG on Twitter. On LinkedIn, it's PrecisionHR Proprietary Limited. Facebook, the same. Instagram, the same. I also want you to follow, I would like to request you rather to follow my panel at Chamagero Andrew. is verified on Twitter.
Correct.
Blue tick?
Yes. No.
Not yet.
That Jama took the blue
Elon
tick.
Musk took away the blue
That
ticks.
Jama took
Okay.
the tick, and we're not buying it back.
It's for sale now.
It's for sale.
All right. It's at Andrew Chamagero on Twitter.
Correct.
Also, you can follow the hashtag ManCaveUG.
Yes, actually the handle is at ManCaveUG. You can follow it and join the conversations of men.
That's right. At ManCaveUG, if you're a man or even if you're a woman
Could be
wanting
a
to
mother
understand men.
with sons, yes.
You could be a wife, you could be a mother. You want to understand. You could be a parent. You want to understand men. You have male, you have boy children
Correct.
who are growing up to becoming men. So ManCaveUG, please follow that on Twitter. Now, Rachel is at Rachel Dumba on Twitter. On LinkedIn, she's Rachel Dumba. On Facebook, also Rachel Dumba. Then Leona Buhenzire is on LinkedIn as Leona Buhenzire. On Twitter, she's at Tura with 6 R's. So be mindful of the number of R's.
That's
At
because
Tura.
the 1 hour was taken, 2 hours were taken, 3 hours were taken until 6.
And you still want it to be Tura.
Yes.
And what's your professional page? On
Mental health support systems.
Yeah, mental health support systems on Instagram. So the reason I'm giving you all these handles is I'd like you to share with these people. Reach out to them.
Yep.
Professional HR, professional media consultant, a big-time advocate of mental health among men, and a psychologist, clinical psychologist. We'll be joined by Kawesa Richard in a bit, and he talks exclusively about men versus boys and girls versus women. So you move from a girl, he does this justice. I can't do it justice as much as he does. So you move from a girl when you're born to a female at the age of 11, 12, 13, or 14, whenever it is you start to go into adolescence. Then later, hopefully, you become a woman. And you also move from a boy to a male at the age of maybe 12, 13, or 14, or 15, wherever it is you enter adolescence. So you stay as a male until you become a man. But being a man is not just a deep voice and beards. That's you're a male. Even animals have males.
Correct.
You can procreate. But being a man is when a male discovers their purpose in life. The man in them is born. When they discover that vision for which they are willing to lay down their life, if possible, if need be. The man in the male comes alive that day. So it could even be a 12-year-old and he's already a man. Because he's discovered his purpose at 12.
Correct.
It could be a 45-year-old male who has never discovered their purpose. They are not yet a man at 45.
There
they are
is
still
one
a
at
male.
48 the other day. I saw the father apologizing on his behalf. I was like, oh God,
Andrew
what are
Chamagero.
we doing here?
You don't want us to be switched off, do
I
you?
just said someone. It could have been in Cote d'Ivoire.
All right. So we'll carry on the conversation. I want to come back to you, Leona. I have met so many people in workspaces when I talk about aspects of mental health because as an HR professional and a consultant, mental health is part of wellness at the workplace. It's inevitable that we talk about it. As a coach, I practice positive psychology. So oftentimes clients come to me presenting with a coaching issue. But after one conversation, I realize it's not a coaching issue. It's a counseling issue. It's a psychosocial situation that cannot be supported with coaching yet. So I'll quickly refer them to a therapist. Politely, of course, and kindly. If I ask for their permission to refer them, and they go to a counselor for maybe 3 months or 6 months, then we can start coaching. Or we can do an integrated approach. They can see a therapist every other week and see a coach every other week. Because the therapy is helping them deal with psychosocial challenges that are going on in their life. The coach is helping them scale their career. So Leona, the question I get asked all the time, how do I deal with a toxic or narcissistic boss? We're talking about creating a better work-life integration. And a lot of people, we're told a lot of people leave bosses, not jobs. So you already are stuck in this job. You need the money. Jobs are scarce and far in between.
Yeah.
But your boss is very narcissistic, toxic.
Can you describe to me what you mean by narcissistic or toxic?
They really treat you badly. They speak harshly to you. They take advantage of what should be your resources, perhaps denying you of your pay when you should be paid, perhaps speaking abusively to you, perhaps shouting, screaming at you, slamming doors, pounding tables, calling you at the weirdest hours of the night and into the weekend, and not giving you time to rest and be with family. You basically feel they're driving you into the ground. That's what I'm describing, that kind of boss.
Can you leave? I mean, sometimes you actually can't, practically speaking. Yeah? Sometimes, practically speaking, you actually don't have the luxury to leave. So, again, it's just levels. Like, how toxic are we talking? Are they singling you out, or are they just generally a dormant volcano? Are they this way with everybody else, or is it just with you? So all of that context, again, really counts for my answer for that. But if you have, generally speaking, if you have a toxic boss, and they're not just toxic, if they're a toxic person that happens to be your boss, right? What is it about their toxicity that has power over you?
Mm-hmm.
What is it about them? What is it about their words that has so much power over you and not over others? Maybe they make you feel incompetent. Nothing can trigger you that you don't already believe in one way or the other. Nothing can have power over you if you don't actually believe it at all. If somebody comes and tells me that they don't like how light-skinned I am, right? That I just think maybe they've lost their mind, or I can't be offended. It has no effect over me. It has no power over me, because I don't think I'm light-skinned in any way, right? If someone comes and calls me a liar, to make it more emotional, I am happy to dispute that, and I'm happy to ask, like, from a very curious place. But if someone calls me, let's say, a bad mother, I have 2 sons. I leave home at 5 in the morning on most days. I get back late in the evening. I'm pretty tired. I don't have enough time to be as present as I would love to be for my sons. That's an inside insecurity that I have. So a random person comes and calls me a bad mother, I'm offended. Right? Why? It's not about them. It's about me and my own life experience and my own relationship with myself. We have deep-seated issues that we never contend with, right? We have very deep, and those deep-seated issues are the crux of why other people's comments have power over us, of why we allow certain things and let other things go. So to begin with, someone with a toxic boss, I would ask them, if it's the way that they speak to you, if they make you feel incompetent or good for nothing, or, then you must question why that has power over you. Most likely, you believe them.
Okay, excellent. So what I hear you say, Leona, is the locus of control, basically. That we have a choice how we respond to what is said or done to us. And the first thing you said straight out of the cuff was, can you quit?
Yeah.
What if you can't quit? What if this is all you have? Maybe your partner doesn't have a job. She's a stay-at-home mother, and she's doing a commendable job raising your children, and you're the breadwinner. Or it's the opposite. Your spouse, your husband, maybe is going through an unemployment situation at that point in time. There's been a restructuring at the organization. You are now the breadwinner as the mother. You're providing the school fees, the housing, the car, and whatever else that the family needs. So maybe quitting is not truly an option. But
in many cases, it's not.
So if it's not an immediate option, then what? And you can't block out, because this is constant. It's like continuous. It's like having a migraine. You go in the morning, you're tearing in your car or in the lift or on the boda to the office. You're tearing because you know you're going to face this man or woman again for another 5 days.
You need to deal with it mentally. I think a lot of life issues the culture today has a lot of cut off toxic relationships, cut off toxic friends, cut off toxic boss. most of us are toxic ourselves.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So if you're cutting off everybody that is toxic, do our grandfathers have the mental fortitude to process their thoughts and even witness whether they're toxic or not? How many people will you cut off? How many workspaces are you guaranteed that in the next workspace people are just going to be all fluid and just like receptive and just, I think you have no control of that. What you have control over is yourself, right? So you have to build your muscle the same way you build your body. The same way you go and exercise, you should be exercising, but most of us don't. But if you go to a doctor and they tell you have 6 months to live unless you exercise, now it's a priority. You have to exercise and your body heals. In the same way, you must exercise your brain muscle to build resilience.
Okay.
Adulthood requires resilience.
Perfect.
And Joseph, sorry, if I may just...
Thank you. I'll come to you in a bit,
on
Rachel. I
that.
just want to I want to stay on Leona's words for a bit.
Yes.
She's talking about building resilience and the fact that certain things you might not be able to undo.
Correct.
You might not you can't even cut off these relationships. Sometimes we ask you, why didn't you walk away? Maybe walking away was not an option at the time.
Yeah.
Maybe I looked at a distance, 5-10 years, and I realized this is something I'm stuck with for now, but maybe in time it will resolve itself. And oftentimes it does. So perhaps as an HR practitioner, I would say, start to look for another job whilst still in this one.
Yes.
Start to apply for other jobs. Start to do interviews with safer workspaces, even if it means taking a pay cut, but for the sake of your own physical and mental health. You might want to take a pay cut, but ultimately that pay will come back when you're in your most productive spaces again. You're healthy physically and mentally, and you'll be happier. The money will make more sense to you when you're happy, enjoying the little, than if you have a pile of cash in your bank account, but you're crying yourself to sleep every night, and perhaps you're going to end up in a mental facility with a mental breakdown because you're stressed out and burnt out. But thanks very much for that, Leona. Thanks for that.
If I may jump in, she dropped the word resilience, and I saw myself, bubbling, and like, finally the word has come out. I don't believe that we have toxic bosses. We have insecure bosses. And if a boss is that insecure, if a boss is that toxic, from my school of thought, I think you have to head it on. I have ever interfaced with a toxic boss, and I don't know what was wrong with her, but my choice was just to go in her office and lock up the door, and I told her, you know what, Olivia, today let's talk about this. I have noticed with concern that every time there is this, it's me. Every time there is a concern about this, it's me. Every time there is a shortfall in this, it's my name that keeps coming. I just want to know, do you believe in me so much that you keep seeing me in all these dots, or what?
Yes.
Because the resilience, if you don't have the courage to confront your fears, you can't be resilient enough. Tell you what, Ajal, I can apply for another job in another place, and I'll get the job with very good money. But the day you've not been respected by someone, this will be used against you. The next time this kind of cycle comes back, you don't know how to deal with it. You don't have coping mechanism. So my understanding is, respect your boss, close the door. Actually, one time I told her, can I have a walk with you to your car? She said, yes. I said, let's talk about this. Let me carry your laptop. She said, no, I won't give it to you. I said, I want to know, what is your problem with me? What don't you want about me?
Right.
Am I too aggressive? Am I too needy? I just want to know. And I don't want to do this in a very disrespectful way. Okay, for a better working environment, can you give me personal KPIs? That if I meet them, we can have an arrangement. She said, no, you know what? I know what I'm doing. Do you want to do my? I said, no. While I'm talking to you now, I'm being respectful. The next time it will happen within my colleagues, you won't like it. So what I'm doing now, I'm trying to restrain myself, because I believe one can be talented, one can be professional, but talent does not mean that you have the temperance to hold. So being self-restraining is to go in an office, lock the door with your boss and say, let's have a very honest and comfortable conversation. What do you have against me? And if I find that I'm actually falling short of the expectations, how best can I improve? So I put myself on the edge to lose a job because I've confronted you. But on the same lane, I'm actually putting it to your mind that I'm bold enough to confront you with the facts. Okay. And I'm not just going to confront you that you don't like me. No, I say, in this end of month meeting, my name was noted here. Again, we had another literate. My example came here. Again, when this in email came, my name came. Why am I popular in your underscoring statements? Now, the more I interjected whenever she was speaking, I realized she was struggling with something back at home, but she just needed a dumping person. And possibly I was the best person because I was a carefree soul. And the day I came and I said this, she said, I'm grateful that we've talked about it. I need help. I said, fine. How can I help you?
And on that note, Andrew, thank you so, so much. I'd like to call for a break. And during the break...
Can I just come in on that, Joseph?
Yeah. Right after the break, I will start with Rachel.
Yes.
Because we've queued Rachel up for the next question. So Rachel, just hold your thought.
In relation to Leona's point and Andrew's,
yes.
so that we can
So
close
we'll stay on that thought when we come back from the break. But it's time for me to call for a break right now.
Yes.
And we'll be enjoying the storyline of Precision HR. After all, it's Precision HR at 5. Yeah. Eyes on the screen, please. Welcome back to Precision HR at 5, the celebration of this organization that has brought us all together. Now we have a full house, a full panel. We've been joined finally by Richard Kawesa. And I'd like to do the honors to introduce my very good friend, my brother, Richard Kawesa. Allow me to just speak to your profile, Richard. Richard Kawesa is known to me personally, and I think we first met in person in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. when I was at NSSF.
Yes.
So Kawesa Richard is a passionate individual with a diverse, with diverse interests, including behavioral change, strategy, causes, mindset change, entrepreneurship, and change management. Believe it or not, Richard Kawesa began his career as a musical artist at a tender age. I think he was 10 or 11 in the US and Canada. He went on tour all across the US and Canada between the age of 11 and 16. And he later transitioned into business consultancy and philanthropy. Kawesa is also an author of multiple books covering topics such as critical thinking tools, identity, change management, and entrepreneurship. Also, from male to man. Yes, interesting. Kawesa is a co-founder and director of projects and strategy for the Anti-Counterfeit Network, ACN, and he also serves as a lead communication strategist and mindset specialist for Here For You Change Management Project with the Rwanda Revenue Authority. Additionally, he co-founded Girls Flourish and Fishto alongside his family because he's a father of 3 girls, 3 daughters. And furthermore, Kawesa is the co-founder of Ubuntu Community International Limited, which focuses on character and mindset transformation. How I know Kawesa, I know you as a brother. I know you as a friend. You can imagine in all these experiences that I introduced Andrew Chamagero as a brother and a friend, Kawesa as a brother and a friend, Rachel as a big sister that I didn't have. My sister is younger than me. My sisters are younger than me. And Leona as my therapist. So I have a personal connection to every one of you. But Kawesa, very, very welcome to this program.
Thank you.
I know that the traffic situation was crazy out there. It's been raining cats and dogs in Kampala. I think elephants and lions perhaps is a better description for the amount of rain we've seen in Kampala today. And of course, most of the city is affected by flooding and stuff like that. But you're here now. We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Talk to us. The theme of 5 years of celebrating Precision HR is revolutionizing HR for a better work-life integration. How can men at the workplace ensure that they are leaving a lasting legacy? They are building a legacy that will outlast them. If you think about the 7th generation concept, the 7th generation concept has it that you should try and build whatever it is you're building for 7 generations. It's borrowed from the Iroquois in the Amazon basin, Amazon forest and Amazon river in Brazil, who believed that for 7 generations, meaning even though you'll be physically not alive, but your generations after you, your children and your children's children and their children's children, should be able to carry on the work that you started into the years to come. So talk to us about that. Yes, I have a job in Stanbic, I have a job in Precision HR, I have a job in Coca-Cola, I have a job on NTV. How do I ensure that I'm leaving a lasting legacy for my children? Especially, I know you love to talk to men. Tell us about that.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank you, Richard.
Precision, 5 years is a long time in the city. It's quite Uganda, 5 years. Staying in and fighting, employing people, it's a very hard job. So congratulations.
Thank you, Richard.
To you and to the team. The first concept, I think, for anyone, or especially men in the work environment that work for companies, is to realize the relationship between your own family vision and the vision of the family you're working for called Stanbic. That recognition, if you are a worker, to understand that the man or that is behind Stanbic Bank in, say, 1800, if you sit in his shoes and realize what you are a part of as a family, and you're thinking, he stood for something, he built something that now provides for your own family. That in itself should give you the motivation to really commit, because they've introduced you to be a part of something that has history, something that has continuity, something that you can be a part of going forward. So that's the first thing, to realize that, to come to that realization that you're not just working to earn a salary, but you actually are there to contribute to a legacy that stands. The second one is for you to appreciate and be challenged, to ask yourself,
if indeed I'm part of this family vision, how am I using this platform to set a foundation for my own family? Now, the difference here is that many people who work in these places, to start with, don't have a family vision. So they become passive. If they're not passive and they are fighting, they are always fought back. And when they are fought back, it's very easy to say, mfirachi. After all, this is not my company. And therefore, you give the bare minimum because you don't feel the obligation to go beyond that bare minimum. And also being that you are in such an environment where resources are quite available, you have company resources, you take it for granted that these things are given. You also tend to have distractions with the other gender, because you now have most of that for the first time, from school. You have some money that you can really say is my money. It's not my parents' money. So there's also a loss of time just to try to deal with the power of resource. Yeah, it's like a Lamborghini. That's your first day to drive it, and it can do 300 kilometers per hour. You want to take it for a ride, And so there's also that power that distracts a lot of people there. But what should be then the essence of men to engage themselves meaningfully at these workplaces? The first thing is to understand the relationship, I think, between your professional career, and your family, the relationship there. To what extent is this platform at this workplace supporting your vision as a family that is transgenerational? And once you get that mix, then commitment changes. Then even when you go for negotiating for certain packages, you're not really looking for today's bread. You're negotiating with an enterprise that exists for 100 years back. Therefore, you should also sort of negotiate from, where are we taking Stanbic in the next 100 years? What am I doing today to ensure that Stanbic stays beyond? And when they're doing that, how are they impacting my life in my contribution here for my own family? I think that's where the context should be, yeah.
Thank you very much, Richard. And thank you for bringing that context also to this conversation, because it has to be a balanced conversation. It can't just be about one and not the other. Yeah. Thank you so much. And really speaking, if you're not working for something that will outlive your time in that organization, surely you've lost it. So oftentimes, people get asked this question: who is responsible for your career progression? And the wrong answer they always give is HR is. So who is HR? Right? The CEO is, my boss is. No, it's you. It's your responsibility. Let's come back to you, Rachel. You had a burning response to Leona's earlier contribution about grit and resilience, and Andrew's as well.
Someone has said, I'm waiting for that.
Waiting for Rachel's response. On Twitter, they are waiting
You bear with me, I
eagerly.
see much online.
That's very good. I wish I was like you. It's the age difference. Like he says, I'm the older sister.
Don't worry, I got you.
Yes. So thank you and welcome, Andrew. Lovely to have Richard. Sorry. Excellent responses. But point number one: quitting is not an option. Leona said, "Can you quit?" No. We know the unemployment levels in Uganda and globally, and we know how many youth we have under 30 in Uganda. According to UBOS, last year it was 78% of our youth are under 30. Wow. So where do they work? Where are they going to work? And the point you raised earlier, Leona, if you must receive that call at 1 a.m. to put food on your table, you will do it. And so quitting is not an option. Then to Andrew's point, do bad bosses exist? Yes, they do. Yeah. Narcissistic people do exist. But how do you manage them? Because that's the question you kept on asking. And number one, these people want to be praised. They have an inflated ego. So praise them. When you see him, like you said, that red jacket, I love it. That yellow skirt, I like that yellow skirt. And then you say, where did you cut your hair? I love it. Yes. So praise them. You get onto their other side. Then Leona is the psychologist. It's known that narcissistic people are bipolar. So look for their high moments when they're extremely excitable and go to them and say, you mentioned the other thing. What did I do wrong? So first of all, start by apologizing. They love the word sorry. A bad boss loves the word sorry. As soon as you walk in, say, I am sorry, I did not seem to understand what you meant in the meeting, but could you please provide guidance? They like to seem like they're your guide. They like to seem like they're the ones holding the torch in this dark alley. So praise them, ask them, apologize to them, make them shine, then find out who is in their network, who is their best friend, where do their kids go to school. Then if they're going to Kamboja, raise that point and say, you know, I have a niece in Kamboja, and they told me there was a sports day. Is your son participating in the sports? So you're engaging at a personal level without crossing certain boundaries that are family, and don't talk about negative press, or I saw your wife in the papers and this has been said. That is now going to take you back to the long list that Andrew was talking about. So understand what they like to drink, understand what they like to eat, buy them donuts now and again. You know, be the nice person in office who's going to buy pancakes at 20,000 shillings and bring them in, but let them know that you're trying to rally the masses behind them. Make that wow presentation for them, Joseph, and let them own it. Put their name on the presentation, not yours. Because they remember they are exactly prepared by, they're looking for power, they're looking for affirmation, they are looking for praise, they are looking to be in the limelight. Don't steal their limelight. They often change. We've worked with so many in the last 22 years, and they do exist. Don't run away from them, because you're going to run from one to one who's worse. And they are in every workplace.
Okay.
Yes.
I love that when you bring that. There is a research that was conducted by the Catholic Church. So I read the Catholic research oftentimes because they're very widespread. I read their poverty research, how poverty, thrives. But I read their generational workforce research, how millennials behave, that millennials love food. Whenever they are getting a job, they say, do they give you lunches? Do they give you transport? Yes, Skoda.
Yes.
And they don't go on the gross and the net pay. Yeah. The question is then to you, our big sister, are we ready to be mentored to this? Because we're very young professionals, but we're extremely egocentric. We think we know it all. Whatever you want to tell me, it's online. I can actually, log in and get coached and trained by Precision or by Kim in New York, and I get certified. So how do we balance the egocentric nature of the young professionals today with the dynamics of the market today, that we're in position to balance the career path, Ajala alluded to, that I still have my green light and I'm still focused on my way. But regardless of the egocentrism that comes with my age and generation, I'm in position to tone down my ego and come before your feet, and I'm mentored.
Yes.
How do I go about that?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Interesting. And through you, it seems we've taken over Joseph's role.
So Andrew, being a journalist, has taken over he has fired me on my own program.
On the Precision at 5.
Out Precision, I've been fired by one of my panelists.
No, but it's an interesting perspective and a very good question, because the more we realize that the youth are now taking over, because I'm a Gen X, I'm above 45, and I must realize that I have to come down to what the 30s and below want. But we too have to remind them that, yes, we will do things their way, but they must put in the hours. They must realize that they're not going to drive the car that you and I are driving now, because it's taken us 20 years to drive that, to build the houses that we have. They don't like to put in hours. They want to do it tomorrow. That's why they're involved in fraud. That's why they're running around and all the stress that Leona was talking about. But we encourage them. We motivate them. But above all, we learn from them, because they're extremely intelligent. They're quick. They are your babies. They are an iPad, iCloud. They don't want to have your look. I came with a notebook. They will be laughing at me now.
You can use Otter for all these conversations.
Exactly. They don't carry notebooks. They just carry their gadgets. So you have to understand that there is a lot we can learn from them, but you also need to make them see that they can learn from us. Do not use statements like "you're young." When were you at campus? Do you know what I'm telling you? I've worked for 20 years. They don't care, because they are now becoming CEOs at 27. And we have to appreciate it. It's taken me X number of years to become a CEO. It's taking them shorter. And they leave Makerere University when they have a BCom degree, SCCA. At the same time, they're doing dual classes, and then they're starting on their masters. So by the time they're 26, they have a master's, certification, and a degree. And yet you're still struggling with your one degree and saying you're the boss.
Yes.
So let's understand that dynamics have changed, and they are a different breed we're dealing with. But we must adopt to them.
What a conversation. What a conversation. I feel like I could easily write a dissertation or a thesis just from here. This is recorded, so hopefully we'll watch it and play it over and over again. The Precision HR journey started in February 2018, since we're telling our story. And in February 2018, I worked until 1st February, actually. My last day at NSSF Uganda was 1st February. I took a sabbatical to take care of my family. My late wife was very sick at the time. She had been diagnosed with cancer. So I keep telling my colleagues, Brighton and Martha and everyone else around, that our story of birth was a story of pain. You know, babies are born in pain. Mothers actually give birth in pain. And they give birth with a midwife, so they don't do it alone. Another woman or other women or even men are there to help them bring that baby to life. So April, we picked up forms, and on 13th June 2018, 13th June 2023 is 5 years on the dot today. We are 5 years old. We got our certificate of incorporation from URSB on that date. Now, like I said, babies are born with pain, but it's happiness because you're bringing to life something fresh and new. And we didn't do this alone. I have to honestly give credit to every single partner, colleague, associate, coach, consultant, employee, service provider who has been with us in this journey. Coach Masters Academy, very big partner for us. Coach Masters Academy arrived in Africa for the first time here in Uganda. The founder, Dr. Ben Ko, Master Certified Coach from Singapore, had never been to Africa. He's an ICF certified guru. He's trained over 250 coaches in Africa. But we started it here at Precision HR. The partnership formed. I picked him from the airport myself. So when we say now Coach Masters Academy is present in 10 African countries, it's thanks to Dr. Benko, but also in part to the work we began here with Joan Mugenzi ultimately, and growing Coach Masters Academy. I also want to give credit to Human Resources Managers Association of Uganda. They have been our partners. We are members of HRMAU. We've been members for the longest time. Our President Emeritus is here, Moses Mbubi, and I've also served with him as the Secretary General of HRMAU. I want to give credit to HRMAU, very importantly. IHRM Kenya has worked with us this journey. Kuresha, the ED of IHRM Kenya, is also live with us at the moment. ICF Africa, the Pan-African ICF Africa Conference organizing team, HR Talent, HR Fun House, Dr. Charles Cotter from South Africa, Grime Lateran from South Africa, Adil Dalal from Austin, Texas, Abiola Orojo from Lagos, Nigeria, Atara Solutions with Grace Nzula from Nairobi, Kenya, and Stedman Global Consulting, obviously represented by the CEO herself here, Rachel Dumba. CivSource Africa have been amazing partners with us. CivSource Africa, Jackie Asimwe and her team. And on the board of Civ Fund Africa, I serve as the vice president. And Rachel's own sister, Allen Asimwe, is actually my board chair on the board of Civ Fund. And of course, where we are seated here is our home. This is the home of Precision HR, and it's Venture Labs Africa. It's a shared working space. We've been here from our inception. So we want to thank Rebecca and the team at Venture Labs, all the startups and techies who work here, and comms consultants and specialists who work out of Venture Labs Africa. We want in a special way to thank beautiful pieces who have arranged this set for us. Brenda and Barbara Yatta and your entire team, amazing team of professionals. These people are off the charts, you know. They did for us the launch of ICF Uganda, and now they have helped us to celebrate 5 years. So thank you, every one of you, for being a part of this. And of course, Omuntu Wawansi, Ubuntu Foundation, and Omuntu Awansi. I serve on the board of Omuntu Awansi, and Andrew is the CEO and founder of Omuntu Awansi Foundation. So thank you so much to all of you, and especially our team. Wow, what could we have done without our team? I can't thank you enough. Martha Nakato from day one, Joseph Mugula, Brighton Abasa, our digital marketing specialist. We have many. I'll speak about them shortly. But let's carry on to the next segment. I want to stay with you, Leona. It seems like everything we do these days, we simply can't run away from the mental health conversation, especially in workplaces.
I'm so glad that that is the current status quo. By the way, it's about time.
It's about time.
Yeah.
I attended the mental health conference last year as a keynote speaker. I was invited by the Uganda Counseling Association when I spoke about my personal story and struggles in my family situation. And that video went viral. It was watched tens of thousands of times all across the world. My inbox was full. People expressed a lot of sympathy, but they also expressed a lot of support. Now, organizations are telling us increasingly, our staff are stressed. Our staff are burnt out. You know the deadlines in banks, in media houses? You guys, I worked at Nation Media Group.
You know how it is.
During elections, the young journalists would just go home to shower and change and come back round the clock, 48, 60 hours
Correct.
and so on, 72 hours, covering the election news. So those guys would wear out and get burnt out. But we didn't know at that time what mental health meant. Now we do. So Leona, if you are helping these people listening to us now, these various leaders in organizations, to build safe workspaces, what would be your key message to them?
In building, I've been impassioned by what Rachel said earlier, and I've been waiting for an opportunity to ask. So I'm going to divert just a little bit to just pose a question to Rachel, which she can answer whenever she pleases. What you are describing, and I'm speaking to you as somebody obviously who has the experience, which counts big time. That really counts, right? The rest of us, I'm speaking from theory mostly, right? You're speaking from experience because you are a CEO now and you've put in the time and you've put in your years. And so I believe that what you're saying, you know that it works. You've literally seen it work, right? Tried and tested. Here's the thing though. What you describe sounds a lot like people pleasing, right? Narcissists do need to be people pleased. Those are facts. But the thing about it is that there is typically a narcissist seeks out a codependent, even in relationships, even in any relationship, right? And interdependently, a codependent also seeks out a narcissist. They feed each other, right? So first of all, you could be getting picked on because you are codependent, right? So I don't know if to continue to feed that beast that with the insatiable hole actually works in your favor. I don't know that to people please actually puts you in a strong standing. I don't know. It's a question for you to process with me. I would love to actually understand that deeper, right? So those were my thoughts there.
Okay.
Back to you. Could you please rephrase your question for me?
What would you tell an organization that's trying to build safe workspaces, psychological safety? What are the things they need to be looking out for as a mental health expert yourself, as a clinical psychologist? What are the things that HR leaders now need to focus on to build safe workspaces?
What is a safe workspace? You know, these general words, it just makes everything very surface, you know? Like if you can go deeper and actually describe these things, what do you mean by a safe workspace?
An organization where there is mutual respect across the board. Leaders respect the people that work for them and with them, and those that work for and with them respect them right back. It's not a case of a quiet quitting and where they
So respect, one.
Respect is one of the things. Policies that clearly stipulate what a safe workspace is. What is harassment? I may not have touched you, I may not have sent you an annoying email or text message, but my words are in fact offensive. What is harassment? What is bullying? It should be clearly defined so that we are, I feel, psychologically safe to come to work. What are
Yeah.
my regulated working hours? Yes, we might spill over once in a while when there are deadlines. That's understandable. But there can't be deadlines every day.
Yes.
Every weekend, every public holiday can't be a deadline that I must only me or only us, the employees, should meet. So I need to talk to that. Talk to HR leaders.
One of the things that you've spoken about over and over is stress, right? And by the way, you've answered the question for me, as far as HR is concerned, right? But let me talk about stress in particular, right? Because I feel that perhaps HR doesn't really. There's things that are on paper, and then there's the reality of it, right? Does HR really prioritize people's mental health? Does it? What does that look like on the blueprint of the company?
My simple
Does it
answer
count?
is no. I'm sorry to.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm a fellow
That's what I
HR
wanted
practitioner,
to. Yes.
and I want us to be honest with ourselves.
Thank you very much.
We've not
Thank
done
you.
well enough.
Productivity.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, the effects of, for example, stress management, and there is so many aspects. I can't just generalize. There's conflict management, there's relationships, there's stress management, there's self-regulation, on and on and on and on. But stress, I will talk about because it happens to every adult, right? Stress is not a bad thing. It's not a feminine thing. It's not a weak thing. Stress happens to everybody.
Yes.
So consider early man, for example. Stress is actually good for you. The problem is chronic stress. So stress puts us in a position where the brain. So consider early man. Let me use that example to help you understand what stress really looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So early man used to get stressed maybe once every 2 weeks, right? Because he's going to the forest to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what stress really means is that cortisol levels in the brain go up. Okay. What that really means is that
we are not.
it's a stress hormone. I actually want to elucidate it flat and basic.
Okay, thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
So now, what really happens is that the brain perceives a threat.
Okay.
When the brain perceives a threat, it goes into fight, freeze, or flight
Okay.
mode. That is
Thank
what
you.
is called stress. In behavior science, it's fight, freeze, and flight. It's cortisol. That's what
Fight.
fight. So in early man terms, if he sees the lion, either he fights it, or he freezes,
Or he
or
flees.
he flights and runs away.
Mm.
Okay? So when early man did that every 2 weeks, stress was important. What really happens when the brain detects that threat is that it withdraws resources from your higher brain centers, from your cardiovascular system, from your digestive system, from your immune system, and puts all those resources in your muscles and in your cardiovascular system, literally to fight, strength, or to flight. You could run 10 miles and feel extremely tired. But what will happen? And you're crawling, like you're about to faint. What happens if you see a snake?
You'll keep running.
That's the fight and flight. Or freeze, right? Now, that's early man, and that's useful. Now, the stress today, the brain does not know the difference between a lion that's going to attack you and the KPIs. Yeah? I call it the daily grind.
The daily grind, yes.
A deadline. The brain doesn't know that. What the brain does is that it detects a threat.
Yeah.
When it perceives a threat, which the threat is a deadline, it's not really a threat, it does what it did for early man. So chronic stress really means that your brain is constantly withdrawing resources from your higher brain centers. That means you forget small things all the time. I just put my phone here, I can't find it.
Right.
A lot of adults do that, right? It withdraws from your digestive system, right? You
Yes.
can't, your bowel movements are just not predictable, right? Your immune system. You might realize when someone loses a loved one, or if they're in a very stressful time, they get flu, they get, headaches.
That's why I'm getting lots
Right.
of flu these
Sleep,
days.
sleep issues, right? That's because your immune system is compromised. A lot of us go to the doctor as adults, and there is literally nothing wrong with you. Your
Exactly.
immune system is highly compromised. What does that mean for your employees as HR? If they're in a high stress environment, that means that literally their brains are constantly, there is no way that person is at their optimum productivity. The number of bills that you're paying in health, yeah, in health alone, because this person is constantly going to the doctor, they're constantly burning out, they're constantly overwhelmed, they can't multitask, they're overwhelmed. The overwhelm in itself creates an intense work environment, right? So stress, which is looked at as a small, weak thing that people fail to mismanage, most of us, just because we are getting by, we assume that we are managing, but are we? Are we? Drinking is not managing. Sweeping things under the rug is not managing. If you get a ringworm on your hand, on your sleeve, and you wear that means your body is telling you that we have a fungal infection. Mm-hmm. And what do? You wear a short-sleeved shirt. Does that take the fungal infection away? No. It just spreads more. Then maybe you wear a longer-sleeved shirt. Does that take it away? No, it just exacerbates it to a point where you're going to be debilitated and have to go to the hospital, right? To a point where your employees are just not productive. It's just another job. It's just 8 to 5. I am physically present but absent in every single way. Wow. It's imperative that you consider mental wellness at the workplace.
Leona, wow. Friends, do you hear what is happening here? This conversation should have been yesterday. The best time to have had something was yesterday, and the next best time is today. And it's happening right now. So I want to request the team that is the technical team to keep a track of comments that are coming through on our Zoom, because there are lots of comments coming through on our Zoom, the live Zoom link, also on YouTube. And then for those who are on Twitter, you can follow @PrecisionHrUG, and the hashtag is PrecisionHrAt5. PrecisionHrAt5 is our hashtag. So Brighton and the technical team from Beautiful Pieces will share questions. When we take a break, we'll pick a few the questions that really stand out from Zoom, especially those who are not here physically or in Uganda. If somebody is perhaps texting or emailing or whatever, sending a chat message from Nairobi or other parts of Africa or the world, let's try and pick those interesting comments that are standing out so that we keep it interactive, because the audience is not just here, the audience is virtual as well. It's in different parts of the world. Thank you so much. I want to come back to you, Richard. Listening to you, for me, is always a revelation. How is it possible for an individual, maybe let's say accountant or IT officer or somebody who has just left university at 22 or 23, a graduate learner, graduate trainee, how can they build themselves so solid and so strong that they can't be ignored in 5 to 10 years' time? Tell us, based on your own personal experience, and you stand out. You've been a consultant for the last King of Scotland. People, you don't realize we're sitting with a celebrity here. Actually, all these are celebrities. Chamagero, NTV. This gentleman here, Richard Kawesa, musical prodigy, toured the whole of the US and Canada between the ages of 10 and 16 as a child prodigy. The millennial song that ushered in East Africa from the year 1999 to the year 2000 was composed and written by Kawesa.
With other guys.
With other people.
Yeah.
And the last King of Scotland, he was one of the consultants. He's a screenwriter, he's a script writer, he's a playwright. He's all these amazing things. How, using your own experiences, how can you encourage or motivate a young professional to take their career to the top without burning bridges, without using fraud or trying to, do things along the way that will leave them with a damaged conscience or, in fact, with a damaged career?
I think the answer would be in identity. Who do you think you are? Gwani. Nzani. Because by the time you leave campus, you have multiple identities in you. I call them identity demons. Demons because I took the word demons from the word demonstration. Demonstration. That thing that pulls on you, and it's a mirror in which you see yourself and relate with the world. So the first confusion is you want to be like chameleon. But the moment you are like chameleon, they don't accept you in the law establishment if you are a rebel legal officer. Don't pick the lines. I didn't say what I said. So let's keep going. So you want to be that, and you feel it, but the spaces where you're going to work do not actually appreciate that sort of identity. So you have to understand, would you shape yourself against what you call the occupational identity, where you say, who are you? I'm the president of Uganda. So when they take away that presidency, who are you? It's a very scary thought. It could actually keep you in power. You can be a slave to that question if you can't answer it. Now imagine that our grannies, some of them are still dealing with identity issues. Now put that 22-year-old living campus. Who is he really? Now when they get into that context, then you have to know how do I know who I am? The first question is, I need to come to the realization of those things that I'm strong in, like my strength, but also I need to know that I'm also made up of weaknesses. So don't overextend your imagination of self. Yes, you know you are in the cat family, lion and cat, but you are not a lion, okay? And you say, okay, I'm not a lion, I'm a cat. So when dogs come, what do? Run. Don't act that you're a lion. You'll be eaten for supper. If I'm a lion in certain aspects, who needs that lion part of me? And at least that's what I did when I was 15. I asked 3 questions. I said, if God gave me 60 years on earth, 15 actually, what do I want to leave as a legacy? I had to face myself and say, what do I? The second thing is, what do I have within me that is not dependent on education, nothing like that. I am just me. What do I have within? And I realized, oh, okay, people listen to me when I speak, because I used to get a lot of people, older people, married people, and I don't know what I used to tell them when I was 10 about their lives, and they would listen. So I said, okay, people listen to me. That's something I have within me. It's not dependent on a degree. 2, I also would ask, okay, I can sing music. So can I use music, okay, to lead me to who? So now I had to ask myself, what kind of music am I going to do? So I remembered that a man's talent opens a door for them to the king's palace. But your talent cannot sustain you in the king's presence. It opens door, but it cannot sustain you. So you must have relevance by studying the needs of the king that will keep you in his office. So I said, okay, can I start with the music to the door? So then now the music became African music, where I had to do African, but we call it world music, where it's a kind of music that when the king listens, he says Mundetere Kawesa. And I stuck on that because I needed to get to the king so I can be able to have an opportunity for plan 1 of what I want to do in 60 years. So it means that even when there were opportunities to make more money doing kaku type of music, I didn't join. I did not join. And so I think that's how you would answer the question of a young person who is struggling with the question of how do I become relevant in any place in the world. Your relevance is limited to your understanding of self in terms of strength and weaknesses. In your strength, lead yourself. But where you're weak, learn to be led. Learn to be led. And so I think that's where the solution could come from. But I wanted to touch something on Madame Leona. Yes. You did mention stress, and I loved that because you articulated from a scientific point of view where that comes from. It makes it easy to deal with. I was sharing with a group of people, they were researchers, and I was talking about critical thinking. And I was talking about the 5 dimensions of critical thinking. Look at the parts, look at the relationship between the parts, look at the environment in which the parts relate, ask yourself what if, and then intent. And once I took them through examples of what that means in your life, in your career, in your workplace, one young lady who was a psychiatrist as well stood up and said, sir, you just made me realize how critical thinking can be an answer to mental health. In the sense that partly what I think can be stress is when people are disorderly. You don't know what should come first and what should come next. They have told you, they've given you work. Instead of managing your time well, you're going to, social media. Then at night you have to wake up because you're stressed thinking. So could it be that critical thinking, or the absence of it, some form of intelligence, can also directly lead to that you don't order yourself, and then life comes and sort of pushes you all the time and then the absence of values, where you don't stand for something and say, nzenga kawesa ndi mulungamo, I am orderly, and I'm going to choose the most efficient and effective means of achieving a predetermined outcome. So every piece of work, every part of my life, I factor that as a boundary within which I have to guard myself against that. Because otherwise, how would Museveni work for 30-something years as a president and still does some work? How is he managing his stress? So to what extent do we have mechanisms that can help people deal with such?
Okay.
I mean, consider it.
Yeah, please, Leona, carry on.
I'm learning from
Consider-
Chama. I'm so sorry. I apologize. But I wanted to learn.
It is well.
I wanted to learn. Thank you, Joseph.
Just consider this. How can a person who, known to them or unbeknownst to them, their brain is constantly perceiving threats,
Okay.
how can that person have mental clarity? If you see a snake charging at you, can you have mental clarity? Okay, so whether you know that snake is charging at you or not, however way that perception is the thing actually there. Perception. And if you do get, I love your answer on identity, because I believe that identity is at the crux of any change, right? Change is incredibly difficult for everybody. But at the crux of change is identity. Do you identify yourself as that thing that you want to be? Or are you small, little, this person that's existing, but then you have the other goal, which is for bigger, more privileged people? Yeah. If you can't get that identity to you, then it's hard. If you don't see yourself as a fit person, you cannot go to the gym and be consistent, and so many other aspects of life. So yes, my answer is yes. The things that influence our stress levels. The human body is able to heal a broken bone on its own, given the right environment. What is the right environment? Right? Also, many of us have the right environment but don't perceive it as the right environment. We don't have the resources to make it right, to make the right environment. Yeah, so and as far as mental clarity goes, definitely. I agree, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Wow. Powerful conversations. Awesome. If you're watching us on YouTube or watching us on LinkedIn or Facebook Live, or in fact our Zoom licensed account, feel free to drop in your messages in the chat. The technical team will be picking out some outstanding ones. We can't read every one of them because time is of the essence. We have to manage our time. But that notwithstanding, I love the thought and the correlation between a clinical psychologist and a change management expert, a communications expert, somebody who has directed movies, who has done songs. Now, every one of us here is a creative. Andrew, you're a creative. You can't do what you do at that highest level when you're not a creative. Rachel, as a consultant, you're a creative. Every proposal, you're not going to write exactly what you wrote in the last one. Before you go for training, sometimes I'm up at 3 in the morning because I'm curating content to deliver at 8 in the morning to a client. And at 5, I've got to be out of my bed and with my children rushing to school. And I've got to beat the traffic, the insane Kampala traffic, and be at this bank at 7:30 to start delivering my content at 8. So I'd probably not have slept the full 6 or 8 hours of sleep. That's the stressful life of a creative. All these people here, beautiful pieces, Brenda Yatta, these people have had to do so much thinking and conceptualizing. So I want to ask you, Rachel, as a creative, and speak for all of us, don't just speak for yourself as Rachel. As a creative, we live on the ABC side of life. You know what ABC stands for? Always be creating.
I've never heard of that.
Yes, we live on the ABC side of life. Your previous success will not guarantee you your next success. Yes, Manchester City has already won the treble. Next season is beginning. Denver Nuggets has
Why are we
already won
bringing
the
in
ring.
Manchester City?
Exactly. So now you have to start all over. How do you protect yourself, Rachel? You're a mother, you're a wife, you're a CEO, you're a friend to many. And you look like a really happy person. Yet you have a highly stressful job. How are you managing to balance between this highly demanding career of yours and still be a great mother, great wife, great leader?
Yes. Thank you very much. Interesting conversations and discussions. And I learned something that I'm going to use in my sessions. Richard, a man's talent opens your doors. I copied that. So when you hear me sounding extremely intelligent, Joseph, I'll pay Richard for that. And yes, the fact that he learned from Andrew and began questioning as well. Interesting. So how do I manage? And very good point that Leona raised around stress. Stress is good. There's a level of stress that's acceptable and good. Some of us who are extremely high Ds in terms of our personality tests, very dominant.
Yeah.
I love working under stress. If a deadline is not looming, I will not do it. When the deadline is close, I will do it and I'll deliver that. Then there are other people who close, if they're traveling on Saturday, they park on Monday. I park on Friday at 1 a.m. because that's when I feel I must park.
Same as me.
And it works for me. So, or Saturday morning. So do not blame. There is no right or wrong answer.
Right.
But how do I manage it? Number one, I delegate a lot. As a wife, I do not go to the market. I last went to the market 20 years ago.
Wow.
Because I must employ people to do that. So let me work hard with you, Joseph, look for the money to pay those people.
Right.
Then I have a house manager. My house manager, I sit with her, we plan what is the home going to eat. She says, this is what we're going to do. She manages that aspect. I do not want to get a call from my children. My kids are now old, 19 and 16, or from my spouse to say, I do not like what I'm seeing at the dining table. No. There are systems in place. So I manage my surround system, my village.
Yes.
Then I do not go to the dry cleaners. I do not go to places like that because there is a gentleman who is in charge of that in my life. So I have my personal support system besides my office. No, and they are not expensive. So Andrew and Leona, it's not about being expensive. They are affordable, but I will work hard to make sure they are happy. And then we have meetings on Monday. I sit with each of them. Remember, these are not professionals like the senior associates in my office and the strategists. These are my support system, without whom I cannot survive. My daughter cannot need pizza and I'm delivering a high-level session to people. She will call my delivery man and say, I need pizza, and he knows the process of acquiring the finances to deliver the pizza. But I will make the money to make sure the systems are in place. So I then take time out. What he said, what Richard said, is besides Rachel, the CEO, I'm Rachel, a person who wants to let my hair down. I am on the board of UBL. I want to enjoy a UBL drink on a Friday. And I want to do it happily with my friends in my safe space, where we go and laugh about what we did 20 years ago. So I do not carry my office to my places where I'm going to let my hair down and enjoy my, it's not an advert, my UBL drink. Yes, thank you very much.
I'll send Andrew an invoice for Rachel, your board member, advertising on our program. We're going to invoice you, Andrew, MD of UBL. All right. So, Rachel, I want to just stay with that and just say thank you so much for being vulnerable, for sharing your personal story, for putting yourself out there, and in the process of doing that, encouraging all these people who are watching and
Doctor
listening.
wants to say something.
Please
This
allow
is my
me.
interview.
Yes.
Allow me. Allow
I
me.
haven't answered her question.
I am on flames here.
I haven't answered her question
It's
as well.
getting hot in here.
I have no.
Literally and symbolically. I'll come to you, Leona.
She
No,
comes in
please.
I
peace.
haven't
Please,
answered her question.
I just want to say,
Yes.
on behalf of women
Yes.
in the workspace,
Yes.
thank you for that vulnerability.
Yes.
Thank you for taking, even if it's a particle, off of the shame and guilt that women carry for seeking help.
Yes.
Thank you for not being another woman who is saying, read chapter this, or just thank you for being vulnerable and honest and transparent, because that's actually helpful and relatable. Thank you.
Oh,
No,
thank you, Leona.
Thank you, Leona.
I think Rachel deserves a hand clap for that.
No, and Joseph, I really want to come to the main curve because at times, if my husband is expecting me to serve him dinner at 7, yet I'm celebrating Precision at 5, it's not going to happen. The house manager must step in.
Right.
And I must empower the house manager.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Joseph, I wouldn't be
on
here.
Saturday, I'll send you a link and you join. And
I
I'll tell
will
them,
come.
We have a great brand here that needs to know how we run it.
Yes.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
Joseph, allow me to answer Leona's
please.
question just for 2 seconds on whether you're feeding this person,
beast.
the
Feeding the
narcissist,
beast.
Pleasing
Yeah.
the beast,
The people
the people
pleaser.
pleaser. Unfortunately, Leona, we have to have 2 personalities in life. I work a lot with government. I walk into government meetings and I'm like, honorable this and this. And then in the corridor, I'm calling the person by first name basis. But in the boardroom, I must respect them and say, honorable minister, sir, dear, that is that personality I must put in that boardroom. So that is life.
Yeah.
If you want to have your cake and eat it all, create your own company where you're working on your own, creating your own space. But unfortunately, reality of life is we can't do everything. I would love to wake up and I'm on the beach and not working and not stressing, but that's not life. You must have those 2 personalities. The one, when you drive into your car park, put on the political one. You must be political.
Yes.
That's
Life
right.
is political as it is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing conversations. I have to step in a little bit here and bring in our audience that is virtual.
Correct.
We are being joined by a number of people from different parts of the world. Linda Sechitoleko is here in Kampala. I actually think she's in Entebbe. Linda is saying, how do we help bosses understand their impact on the performance of their employees? Let's take half a minute for each of these questions. Andrew, answer Linda Sechitoleko. How do we help bosses understand the impact of their performance on employees?
Linda, barring and sowing have the same approach. For both of these, you'll dig a hole, empty the soil, and put a seed there. Where you're burying, please note that both seeds are dead. Where you're burying, what you're burying, you don't water it. But the one you've actually sowed and planted, you actually need to water it. So the time frame between what you buried and what you planted needs watering and nurturing. As a boss, the best way you can actually see your impact on your teams is to allow them to grow. There is a sequence of them growing. Now, when you plant something and you've sown it and you're watering it, it does not sprout out so fast. It sends down the roots down to find the best nutrients and the structures on how best it's going to come back up. So it may take some time, but don't get tired to actually water that seed.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Andrew, for keeping it. As an NTV News reader, you know about time management. 30 seconds is really 30 seconds. I hope we learn from Andrew. So the next one is from Catherine Mangeni, who is head of HR at one of the big multinational corporations in Uganda. Is saying, how does one introduce mental health activities as part of work activities? Leona, 30 seconds, please.
How does one introduce mental health activities?
As part of regular work activities.
What kind of mental health activities? I really struggle with very generalized things because
you're a professional. They don't know. They might not know the exact meaning of what they're asking, but I think what she means is things like employee, assistance programs, bringing in psychotherapy.
If you prioritize mental health at your workplace, then you incorporate and understand it not from a surface perspective of just changing the blueprint of your company, but really understand that this actually affects our employees and then make it a priority. Once you prioritize it, then people actually give a damn about the activities that are involved. Once they've understood deeply what it means and why mental wellness is important, right? Then you can incorporate the activities. So those activities can be, let's talk about something like processing your thoughts. A lot of people assume, I'm a psychotherapist, a lot of people assume that my clients, when you see Butabika Hospital, I consult for Butabika Hospital, that's mental illness. Mental wellness is not mental illness. Majority of my clients, I have a private practice. I don't see clients at Butabika Hospital. Those are patients, right? Now, majority of my clientele, and I want to say
95% are regular people that are not struggling with mental illness.
I'm your client. I'm your client.
Just like
yeah.
you are,
Yeah.
right? What you do when you come to my office is simply process your thoughts. I'm trained to listen to your thought patterns and pick out cognitive distortions that are affecting your perception, which then in turn affects everything about you.
Wow.
You can't pick up on those things many times because you're lost in yourself. I'm trained to pick up on those things. So while I'm listening to, let's say maybe your wife is nagging or your boss is, whatever the problem is, I'm listening to that story from a much more different perspective, right? And I'm going to ask you questions. And you're just there, and it's a safe space, especially for men, to process their thoughts.
Wow. Especially
Just
for men. Men, you
process
had that?
your thoughts. Especially because women there's a safe environment for women amongst their friends and amongst their,
In
families.
gossip.
Right.
In gossip.
No.
No.
That's
Cuts
different.
across.
That's different.
That's different.
Gossip is not processing your thoughts.
Oh.
Gossip, no. Yeah, so a safe environment to process your thoughts, that goes a very long way.
All right. This conversation shall continue. It's not possible to cover this entire spectrum of thought processing in 2 hours. So the conversation will continue on Twitter. Follow our handles. Every one of us have read to your handles. Kawesa, what's your Twitter handle? You
It's
don't have
not
Twitter.
online.
I have, but I don't remember it.
Okay.
I think.
Whatever the case might be, just look for Richard Kawesa with a single E, because most Kawesas are spelled with double E. But this is a single E, Kawesa Richard. So I remember I used to follow you when I was still on social media before I quit. But anyway, we want to move on to the next question. We have a few minutes to the end of this program. This celebration will continue after this. Karimi Njiru, listening in from Nairobi, Kenya, says 2 issues raised that are a bit confusing: codependency and people-pleasing. Contradiction from the psychologist, the journalist, and my elder sister with 22 years experience. Now, let's park that. I believe that has been addressed already throughout the course of the conversation. But I believe she texted or sent in that message a lot earlier. But thank you very much. Karimi Njiru joining us from Nairobi, Kenya. Somebody else says, thank you so much, guys. I've learned a lot. I've been out of work for some time, about 10 years, but I've been doing small businesses like baking. I'm told that I don't have experience. How do I re-enter the workforce? How do I rebuild my CV to compete with guys of 5 years work experience and above? And I'm already 35 years of age. Rachel?
Wow,
30
interesting.
seconds.
In 30 seconds, reinvent yourself, learn something new, and it's never too late. Then go and talk about your baking as an art. Talk about the lessons you've learned in your baking, and that's your work experience. Don't be shy to put down those odd jobs that you've done. And Joseph, I lived in Manchester. I worked in hotels. I cleaned bathrooms. I worked in KFC, and it's part of my journey. I always want to talk about that more than being a CEO, because that's what shaped me. And that's why I'm able to get into bigger boardrooms now. Because I made beds, I swept the streets. There's nothing I did not do.
Wow.
And I'm proud of that background. So this person should put that baking background on their CV and say, these are the lessons I've learned. Just give me a chance to put my foot in the door, and I'll excel in whatever job you give me. But I'm happy to have a further conversation with them.
In fact, her name is Maria. She has a postgraduate diploma from UMI, and she says, do you have a contact? So Maria, please do contact us. Reach out to us on our social media handles. You can follow Rachel Dumba and go to her LinkedIn inboxer. She'll be able to respond to you, or come to info@precisionhr.co.ug, and Martha or Julie will address your concern.
Joseph, just briefly.
Yes, Andrew.
Does Dumba's LinkedIn not have, premier stuff? Like, if you're not premier, you can't send me a DM.
Right?
It may or may not. She says it doesn't. She says it doesn't.
But again, I'm very disturbed that she's 35 and she's worried about this. You're too young. You are too young. There are things I want to do when I'm 70. I want to do bungee jumping when I make 70. I think it goes back to, what's your why? What's your why? Every time I feel like I'm vying off the road, I go back, what's my why? Why did I start this? That brings you back to the journey. 35, girl, oh girl, you're just 18. You just turned 18.
Wow.
Just come back on board and let's run this race.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for that. The next question is from Bridget Nabidia. who says, how do we help HR teams and ourselves go through the shift in HR roles with the introduction of artificial intelligence? I'll answer that. I think this is an HR question. The two of us here are HR. He's a coach, I'm a coach. He's a psychologist, he's a change management expert. So I'll chip in briefly. With artificial intelligence, don't fight it, embrace it. Simple. Don't fight it. It's faster than you. Technology will always outcompete regulation. I'll talk about the Mobile Payments Act, the Payments Act of Uganda, which was passed in 2021, I believe. That act was passed 20 years after we had had mobile money in Uganda. So the regulation will follow the technology. So embrace technology, smartwatches, virtual reality. My colleague here, Brighton, has a very beautiful set of virtual reality goggles that he gives you an amazing experience with. The VR, he's also called the VR guy on Instagram if you want to follow him. Very interesting stuff. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we are officially winding down.
Yes, on that
Kawesa,
point.
on that point, yes, please, carry on.
AI does not have potential for creativity.
Say that again.
AI, artificial intelligence, has no potential for creativity. They will talk about chat, GPT and stuff. And I will say this perhaps for just a question. I had to ask myself, what is potential? And it's part of your unleashing potential. What is potential? Somehow I felt in my spirit that potential is the maximum usefulness that exists within possibilities. Now, the human mind has multiple billions of possibilities to maximize usefulness that AI can ever have. Meaning that we take how many notes? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do? 7. Do you know how many billions of songs out of the 7 notes? And each one of them is unique?
Wow.
That's powerful.
Powerful.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I want to invite you to watch a YouTube video. Now, the title might sound a little crazy, but the amount of truth in what that speaker talks about is unbelievable. It's called the curse of the creative. In other words, a lot of creatives like us suffer burnout more easily because we work longer hours. We are constantly creating. To be in a creative space, like for me, there are days in the week when I just shut down, no phones, no laptops, no tablets, and I'm just sleeping the whole day. I tell the team in the office, cancel all my appointments today. I'm not coming to office. No matter who you are, I'm not coming because I need to prioritize me. If I'm not taken good care of, who will take care of my children? I'm a single parent. So I need to take care of me first. Even my team at the office, if I don't take care of myself, who will take care of the team? If I don't take care of myself, who will take care of the clients? Of course, there will always be somebody who will do it, perhaps even much, much better. That's true. But whilst I'm there, it is my chance and my opportunity and my privilege to do it. So I want to be at my best mentally, physically. I wake up at 5, start off my day with exercise. Every 5 a.m. without fail, I have a yoga mat in my room just for that purpose. Every day, Monday to Sunday. Whether it's a weekend, I will be up at 5 because the body is tuned. Things like, early start, things like a hard stop and a hard start to the day. So this conversation shall continue. Reach out to us at Stedman Global. For Rachel Dumba, reach out to Buntu Foundation. For Richard Kawesa, reach out to Omuntu Awansi Foundation. And on Twitter, at Chamagero Andrew. At ManKVUG every Saturday at 8 a.m. Reach out to 7 to midday, Ugandan time, East African time. But you can be on for a few minutes and then jump off. People go off and come back, they go shower, they drive away, and then they even listen in their cars. And follow Leona Buhenzire also at Tura with 6 R's on Instagram. For more information, reach out the Wellness Center where you provide psychotherapy services.
It's on Bandali Rise. It's called Quick Care Wellness.
Quick Care Wellness on Bandali Rise. That's where I go for my therapy at the moment. And I also want to thank the team. My goodness. Pitch Photography, Linda, Precision HR team, every single one of you. You know that you're dearly loved and you are very much appreciated. We could not, this is our celebration. We could not have done this without you. Martha, Brighton, Julie, Mckinsey, Alphonse, Brenda, that's Brenda Mugerwa, not Brenda Yata, Brenda Mugerwa, Diana Ninsima Mauso, Eunice Among, Festo Arinda, Joseph Mugula, of course, Kenneth Asizua, Moses Mbubi, Miriam Ndianabo. These are all our associates and our consultants. Rose Mercy Sendegea, Joan Mugenzi, amazing consultant and associates we've worked with. PrecisionHrAt5 is based in Nairobi, Kenya. We have associates, I've mentioned ITMA, the International Talent Management Academy out of Liverpool, and Chris Tenga out of Johannesburg, South Africa. I've mentioned all our associates and consultants, maybe not all, but as many as I could mention. We thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. I want to invite you to stay, for those of you who are here at Venture Labs at the location, to stay with us. We have some cake cutting. Are we cutting the cake here? Or we're cutting it out there? Okay, we have some cake to cut and some drinks. There's a cocktail. We're supporting UBL. So stay for the cocktail. And I want to thank all our partners and associates, the technical team from Beautiful Pieces, Brenda and Barbara Yatta. Thank you so much. Thaddeus Tonda and your team, thank you so much for being amazing people working with us at this celebration. So it's exactly 1 minute after 8. So our show is officially closing now. We'll have a video playing. Let's sit and watch the video play of some of our top highlights. If you have the time, those of you who want to log off, feel free. But if you're still here with us, Brighton, let's queue up the video and just watch some of our key highlights over the last 5 years. And we honestly couldn't have done this without you. So thank you. Our associate coaches, those of you who support us, Joy Mirembe on the coaching benches, we have a UBL coaching bench actually. So thank you so much. Milton Award, my former HR head at NSSF, is on our coaching bench as well. Wow, Harriet. Yes. Harriet Musoke, my dear older sister as well. So it's many of us who are involved in this ecosystem. This is not a company. This is an ecosystem. And actually, for those of you who don't know, Andrew Chamagero is not just a journalist. He's a coach, certified professional coach. Yes, he is. Very proud of that. So let's watch the video of some of our key highlights. And thank you so much, guys. Thank you for celebrating PrecisionHrAt5 with us.